On Capitol Hill today, the heads of America's public media networks, PBS and NPR, faced sharp questioning by a House Oversight Subcommittee about allegations of bias and why their work justifies continued federal support.
That support also helps to fund programs like the NewsHour. President Trump, Elon Musk, and many in the Republican Party have argued those funds should be completely cut. William Brangham has our report.
NPR and PBS have increasingly become radical left-wing echo chambers for a narrow audience.
Today's hearing was organized by Subcommittee Chair Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia.
PBS News is not just left-leaning, but it is actively uses taxpayer funds to push some of the most radical left positions, like featuring a drag queen on the show Let's Learn.
Greene and her fellow congressional Republicans accused PBS and NPR of having a liberal bias.
I don't even recognize the station anymore.
All things are considered, yet their history of political bias has shown that there are a number of things they have not considered.
The bulk of the criticism fell on NPR CEO Catherine Maher, who acknowledged shortcomings in some of NPR's past coverage.
That we were mistaken in failing to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story more aggressively and sooner.
She also expressed regret about old comments made in 2018 before she worked at NPR, where she called President Trump racist.
I would not tweet them again today. They represented a time where I was reflecting on something that I believe that the president had said rather than who he is. I don't presume that anyone is a racist.
But Maher also defended the work of NPR, calling their journalism and varied programs an essential part of a democratic society.
It correlates with higher rates of civic engagement, greater civic cohesion, and economic advantages, such as better municipal bond ratings. Recent independent polling found that more than 60% of all Americans and more than half of Republicans trust public broadcasting to deliver fact-based news.
There's nothing more American than PBS.
PBS CEO Paula Kerger extolled the virtues of her network's extensive, commercial-free programming for children.
Our educational programming is backed by scores of research studies showing that our programs like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood and Super Why help kids develop essential skills like reading, math, and problem solving.
Kerger was pressed on the accusation Representative Greene had made that PBS was promoting sexualized content towards kids.
Do you think that it was inappropriate to put the drag queen on the kids show? Do you think that was a mistake?
The drag queen was actually not on any of our kids' shows. The image that Chairman Taylor Greene showed was from a project that our New York City station did with the New York City Department of Education.
What time of day did it air?
It did not air. It was a digital project.
I'm a propaganda wing of the Democratic Party.
The PBS NewsHour was criticized as well. Representative Pat Fallon, Republican of Texas, cited a conservative media watchdog group that says it analyzed the NewsHour's coverage of the 2024 presidential conventions.
72% of the coverage of the GOP convention was negative, 88% of the Democratic convention was positive.
A large majority of Americans say they trust PBS. And that's exactly why extremists are trying to tear it down.
Democrats, like Representative Greg Casar of Texas, came to public media's defense, arguing that if cutting the federal budget is the imperative, there were far bigger targets.
Private insurers and Medicare Advantage overcharged taxpayers $83 billion just last year. That could pay for public broadcasting 160 times over.
Congress sends money to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or CPB, which disperses the funds throughout the public media system. For 2025, Congress appropriated $535 million to CPB. That's less than 1/100% out of the total federal budget. It costs, per American, a little over $1.50 a year. While some Republicans argued that funding might have made sense once upon a time, the advent of the internet makes public media irrelevant.
Because technology has changed everything. We are not living in 1967. There are various options for people to get news and to get disinformation or information, whatever you want to get.
But Ed Ullman, who's the president and CEO of Alaska Public Media, testified today that in many rural parts of his state, public media was still a critical resource and needed financial support.
Our system leverages this crucial seed money 7 times over in highly efficient public-private partnerships. Reducing or eliminating federal funding would be devastating.
Other Republicans, like Representative James Comer of Kentucky, argued that their criticisms of public media were solely because taxpayers were helping fund it.
A media entity like MSNBC or Huffington Post that, in my opinion, consistently spews disinformation, they can do that. They're a private company. But NPR gets federal funds.
But Representative Ro Khanna, Democrat of California, justified that support by citing the example of PBS's Sesame Street, which in recent years had a funding deal to also air on HBO Max, but that deal wasn't renewed.
The reason they canceled it is because it wasn't making a profit. Say, because when you try to do Daniel Tiger or Sesame Street, and you try to do what Mr. Rogers was talking about, helping the emotional and social development of kids, it's not easy. You got to hire people who are child psychologists. You have to hire people who are educationalists. A lot goes into this. And HBO said, you know what? It's not making money.
I'll spend all of my time doing everything I can to ensure you guys never get another dollar of taxpayer funding. This is complete garbage.
It's unclear exactly when federal funding for public broadcasting will face a vote, but the next deadline for Congress to pass a government funding bill is September 30th.
The subcommittee stands adjourned.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm William Brangham.